ReefDudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply.
Today we're going to get an update on the Office Shallow Reef Lagoon Tank. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. Now, it's been a little while since I've done a good proper update on this tank. I've had a little bit of an overview in kind of the office tour I did about a month and a bit ago. So today I figured we'd dive in and do a bit of an update on the tank. Alright guys, so the tank is really starting to settle in finally. There's still a few issues. I have been getting bits of cyano on the sand bed. Not too bad, but definitely a little bit of algae and cyano in some spots. Now in general, I know they do say it is flow based. I would kind of beg to differ. So if you look along the back wall, I have 4 MP40s running the length of the tank. And they're only running about 25%, but they're running on the short side, so back to front, and creating a bit of a front to back gyre within the tank. So it gives me a ton of flow without any specific spot being blasted. With the exception, there's a few different rocks that are fairly close to the power heads. I mean, that might be a little bit of an issue for certain corals at some point in time. Now you can see I definitely do have a lot more coral in the tank now. Now one thing that I have done is frag out some of the stuff that were kind of overgrowing in the water box, and that helped me move a few things into this one. So the flow off gets us a wonderful top down, which of course we always love. Lighting wise, I do have 5 XR15 G5s and 4 Reef Bright strips on the tank. It does give me a lot of fill, a lot of spread, probably overkill, but it's usually the way things roll. Coral wise, I did frag a bunch of my Euphilia and moved it into this tank most recently. There was lots of stuff like Duncans and different stuff that I had hiding under rocks where you almost didn't even see it in the other tank. So it made a lot more sense to kind of like frag it off, tone down in that tank, and give this tank a little more motion and life. One thing that makes me happy is the Gonnies have been doing very well in this tank. I can see the pink one's super long tentacles, very big and happy. We got the nice gold short tentacle and another green short tentacle beside it. And yeah, overall those guys have been super happy, which is always great to see in a newish tank. Bounce mushrooms, the ones that were in here were doing phenomenal. My other ones, they were kind of shrunken up and not doing as well in the water box. I moved them to this tank as well, so hopefully they will kind of bounce back and get nice and big and puffy again like they used to be in this tank. Fish wise, there was a couple new additions if I can find them. Copperband, he's been there a while. I got one of these guys in each tank and they're awesome little fish. But I recently added a couple small little goby guys and a tail spot blenny. There is also a purple dotty back and a neon dotty back, which is the yellow and blue one. Kind of hiding a bit up here, but we got another super big pink Gonny. This guy is massive and happy. He's right beside the output of the return pump. Now I did move in a bunch of tester kind of Acropora. A chunk of it was stuff that was just growing well in my other tank, and so far, for the most part, it's all been pretty happy. That was some chunks like Green Goblin and Acropora, which I originally put in, which were doing well. And I ended up actually just bringing in the whole colony because it was outgrowing and starting to overtake some of the stuff in the water box. So at least in here it has a lot more room to grow out, and I have a lot more space to fill. So that's doing pretty well. On top of that, we got a whatever that little kind of gold encrusting Monty is. That was growing really well in the other tank, so moved him in there. The Euphilia was just kind of hidden in my other tank. That's a really cool kind of stripy Duncan. And we had this other big massive colony of Duncans that was just hiding underneath my rockwork and never got seen it. Like it was literally just hiding in a cave. So at least here it can show itself off a bit more. Same with some of the frog spawns and some of the other guys. The Gonnies we shot earlier, they're super happy in here. Some of the acro stuff I move over. This guy is the Montipora Stiletta. Super fuzzy, pretty easy one I'd say. It grows fairly quick, so I moved a bunch of that in here. We got a nice chunk of red dragon in the back, that's been happy. Some other ones, a little bit fancier ones I added was the Reef Raft Canada Tropicana, which is this orange guy, and that's been growing really well in here as well. So it's getting a lot of light, you know, it's getting pretty close to the flow. I got one side on the MP40 side and then the other one kind of hiding from the flow, but both of them look pretty happy and they're growing well. Some good old green slimer, fragged a bit of that off the other day. There's a bunch that was growing towards the glass in my other tank. So basically anything that was, you see how flat the ends were on it. And that was literally just from getting smacked with the algae scraper every time. So moving into this tank really just freed up a lot of space in my other tank. Now of course you can't miss these mushrooms. These are the Ultra Citrus Redactus. These guys are crazy bright, especially under the Reef Brights. They just pop like crazy. So definitely do love those guys. Forest Fire Digi is actually doing better in this tank than my other tank. So for whatever reason, I never get those really kind of yellowy tips on mine. It was just all red. We're in here, you're getting super nice colors on the tips. Now, I don't know if that's different from the dosing, because in the other tank, I was primarily doing calcium reactor calc, and recently added in a little bit of dosing. Where in here, I'm dosing just the Brightwell additives. So that's the alkaline 8.3P, the calcium, and the magnesium. So this is just getting dosed of the Brightwell. Instead of the other one is my Frankenstein mixture of many different dosing methods. So either way, I'm gonna say whatever is in the Brightwell stuff is obviously working pretty darn well, because it's looking awesome. Also have some of these other ones like the Pac-Man Deep Water, and again, really cool colors. It's getting a lot of like whiter, very vibrant growth off of it. It's probably just because it's much higher light it's receiving in this tank relative to what the water box was, because it was down low. We're in here, you know, it's only 5 or 6 inches from the surface under a bunch of these lights, so probably a lot more light, but it's definitely a lot of cool coloration I'm getting out of some of these corals. Also chopped off those 2 tips off of the Hellfire mealy, so hopefully that one does well in here. So far, it looks happy. It's still polypy, this little test subject, so awesome sign. Next to it, we got a really cool, I think it's called like Black Hole or Black Sun or something like that. It's an Acan Micromesolorid, again, very, very happy, which makes me happy. Yeah, we got some purple monsters and other various zoas in here, just little pieces here and there. Up on the rock here, we got some Fruit Loops, and I'm not even sure what those other ones are. Possibly Gatorade ones, but might do a cool little Zoa island in the middle here. I think that'll look pretty good on some of the lower shelves or some of the legs kind of leading up to it. In the back there, you can just see the edge of them. Got a cool little tail spot blenny. Super chill little guy, and he kind of lives in some of the holes in the rock. So the rock in here is Art Reef rocks. They make kind of custom scapes, and it's really cool rock, full of little frag holes already, so it makes it really easy to mount things. So I did, if you haven't seen that one, I did get the scape off of them, but there was a couple pieces that were broken, so I kind of made my own scape out of it, and I do think it turned out phenomenal, so I've been very happy with that. And yeah, it cracks me up because the little blenny will just like dart and he'll live inside some of the holes. His little house is all over the place, so he just loves it. There's my little Tamini Tang, super cool little guy. And he is a ferocious algae eater. He's constantly picking at the rocks, so definitely a great addition. And the back too, you can also see, they kind of hide in the back corner, but I got my clowns. And one cool thing with the clownfish is they are hosting this neon green Singulera. And those clownfish are actually some of my original fish. So the bigger one was probably my original clownfish I bought 7 or 8 years ago now. So it's really cool to have a fish that stays with you, and you know, for years and years and years. And he started in my 12-gallon nano, and now he's in a 160-gallon 7.5-foot shallow lagoon tank. So yeah, super cool. So it just goes to show, you know, how long fish can live, and the fact that you've had some of these guys for years and years is really cool. Now down below here we have the Solartronic. Now I have yet to give this one a true proper test. It's kind of just been hosting some rock flowers and some zoas below, which again, have been doing its job with that. My next plan is, now that the main tank is kind of happy and stable, I really want to do a bit of escape down here. So I'm going to take a bunch of rock and make almost like a second little mini tank down here, because this is a 2x2 area, so it's a good chunk of space. Flow wise, I do have the one near on the back corner there, just running fairly low, just add a bit of flow down here. Next column over, I guess the only thing I've added recently is I added the NIOS reactor back in, and that's just running a bit of GFO just to keep the PO4 in check. Dosing wise, we've got the Alkatronic and the Dostronic basically managing this tank. Now I've actually been having my elk a ton lately. I think I'm up to around 32 mils of elk, which is way higher than I expected, but again, I have been adding a good chunk of coral from the other tanks, and there's a good chunk of water volume, so I guess it kind of makes sense. Now the elk, the calcium and mag, it's probably only a third of that what I'm dosing. Now one thing that's kind of weird is I've always had to dose way more elk than other stuff in my ratios, and it's kind of been like that forever for me. And I'm not quite sure why, but I know when people have tried to keep things, you know, dosed equally, that has just never worked out for me. Another little change that I did is I used to have the Mastertronic there, which has now been relocated to this side of the tank. And I basically did that one just to kind of free up this area that was a little unused nook anyways. So it made a lot of sense. Now the one tricky bit is you need to feed it RODI water, which the reservoir is here. The hose for it is, you know, 6 or so feet, which wasn't quite long enough. So my little bit of a hack here is I took a big beaker, or a graduated cylinder rather, and put it underneath a dosing tube. Now my ATO goes into this beaker, and then the beaker overflows into the tank. So this beaker is like my little tower of RODI water, which the Mastertronic can pull from. So it was kind of my little hack to get RODI close to the tester and just have it autofill itself off my ATO. So I thought that was kind of a bit of a clever way to do it. I mean, I could probably figure out something slightly cleaner, but it does the job. Now, I'm pretty sure I showed this one already, but you can see my RODI system has changed. I sold off the SpectraPure one I had and upgraded to the 180 gallon per day BRS water saver one. And the dual membranes definitely fills it a lot quicker. But so this guy, again, is set to fill my ATO every 3rd day, and this feeds the ATOs behind there as well as the Frog Vivarium behind me. And this thing fills it very quick. It fills it in probably 1/3 of the time as the old RODI systems. That's been pretty cool. And the not so fun bit, my XP Aqua ATO pump finally died. This itself works fine, but the little pump that plugs into it bit the dust. Now they do sell replacement ones for like 30 bucks, so I will pick up one of those later. But for now, I basically turned the Coral View Hydros into the ATO for the tank now, so I added a optical sensor, and I had a little pump for it, so I put that one in there and basically made that be my ATO. So the Hydros is the new super fancy overkill ATO, but that's been doing a good job in lieu of my proper ATO. Alright guys, so that was an update on the Lagoon Office Shallow Reef Tank. Overall, I would definitely say it is starting to get into its stride and things are settling in nicely. My only really complaint with the tank would be there is a bit of algae and a bit of cyano on the sand bed. So hopefully we beat that in the near future and get back to a nice happy state. I might start dosing some Razor Microbacter 7 or something just to help outcompete that. I did run out, so we'll see how that goes and hopefully it gets her back to pristine. If you guys have any questions on this, as always, let me know in the comments below. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and I'll catch you guys on the next update.